Hi, welcome back to another short video. The last 4 weeks I've changed the way I've been working. I've changed my methods, I've changed my way of thinking. I decided that I needed to really crank up my business. For those of you not in the UK, you're probably aware or may not be aware that we had this Brexit vote, which means that the UK will or should be leaving the European market, depending on how the politicians can sort themselves out, and that is not far off now. It's about a year away before it officially all happens. So changes need to be made, and I've decided to be proactive rather than reactive, and I decided to try and I suppose get the motivation. I started looking at various different motivational speakers, trainers, etc. One guy I've been following for quite some time is Cardone. Um, there are elements of what he says I like. There are some that, yeah, okay, not too sure about. But if you break it down and just take away the bits that you think are going to work for you, then what he says is very relevant, very true, and it can get you motivated. So about 4 weeks ago, I changed my whole way of thinking, my whole way of doing business, and I've got to say, it has worked out extremely well in such a short period of time. This week is ridiculously busy. I've got so many meetings planned. In fact, I've overcommitted, but I will deliver on those commitments. It's all due to the fact that I've looked at my business in a different way, my approach, my method of thinking about the business, and it is something I would encourage anybody to do. It doesn't have to be Grant, it can be anyone, but like Grant says, if you're going to go with a mentor, then just choose one and follow one for a period of time. See how you get on with that, because what happens is, and it's very true because I have tried it, that if you start looking at or listening to 3, 4, 5 different mentors, you will get a different signal, a different approach, a different type of action from each one of them. And then in the end it just becomes very cloudy and you're no better off, so you're best sticking to one. So I'm sticking with Grant for the moment. I've bought into his books. I use audio books because it's easier for me because I do a lot of driving, so I'm in the car, and what I'm doing is picking up bits and pieces from it and thinking, yeah, you know what, if I did that, that is going to improve this, and it has worked out so well. Honestly, it's changed the way I look at work and the way I am doing things. I know I keep repeating this, but it's just been overwhelming. Normally on a normal week I'm out on the road for 3 days a week, which is by choice because I have quite a lot of paperwork to do. I have quite a lot of emails that I come in from various brands that I have to action, have to deal with. So what I've done is I've set time aside on those weeks, on a Monday and a Friday. One day is used just for making appointments. You've got to do it. You can't do it while you're out on the road because you've got to be, with your calendar. You've got to talk to people, try and get dates fixed. So that is better doing from an office. But this week I'm out on the road 4 days. So today being Monday, I'm using as my office time, and then I have got where I would normally have 12 to 15 appointments booked in over 3 days. This week I have got 22 appointments. So that has now taken my call ratio to another level, with hopefully what will happen from that call ratio, and this has been happening in the last couple of weeks, is that I'm seeing more people, I'm giving them more time. They're buying into the point of sale material that I sell to them. So it's generating everything. It's generating business for me. It's generating business for my customers much quicker. So everybody benefits from it. The one thing I just want to wrap up with on this particular video is that, and it's something I've listened to for years and I've never really bought into it, and I've got to admit that a little bit lazy. I'm a professional salesperson, but when it comes to it, you can get quite lethargic. You can get quite down, which is great. Which is where the motivational videos and audiobooks come in, which really keeps you bouncing. But one thing I've started doing is making a list every night. So once I've done my day's work, caught up with everything, I will then write a list of what needs to be done the next day. And like I say, people have been going on about this for years, but it's just something I've never really got into. But I've started doing it, and again, it is something that is working so well for me. Today, we are at, it's just gone 10 o'clock in the morning. I made a list of 11 things that I needed to do today. Now, this isn't my day's work. This is things that I need to get done today, as well as my other work. And already I've already crossed out 3. I've achieved 3 of those things already, and there's 11 on there. So, I've got another 8 to do, which will take possibly another hour and a half. Once those are done, then I can get on and do what I need to do for the rest of the week. If I can't achieve any of these, what will happen is that I will then put them on my list tonight to make sure it gets done tomorrow. So it never gets forgotten, and this is working really well for me, and I advise anybody to do it. So thanks for listening. I will keep posting short videos about how things are progressing for me. But certainly, if it doesn't matter if you're a seasoned professional or just starting out, find an online mentor to follow, who you find interesting, and you can take things from. It may be that, it's same with Grant. He's quite full on. A lot of what he says works very well in the American market, in the UK market. I need to take it on board, but it's not necessarily the way that we work in the UK. So there are things that are different to what we do in the UK. It may be adapting what he's saying to make it work in the UK. But what I've done at the moment is just taking out all the elements, all the bits and pieces that, yes, I can do that. Yes, why am I not doing that? And I'm listening to his videos every day. He's got a Cardone University, which is quite expensive. I have seen it because somebody I know has actually invested in it, so I have dipped into it. It's very interesting. Again, it may not be for everybody, but if you're in sales, you've got to look at people like Grant Cardone, and his marketing is all around 10x. 10x is really just cranking up your business. Do 10 times more than what you have been doing. So if you're making 10 phone calls today, make 100 phone calls today. Things like that, it's just an example, but it's just take everything you do to another level. If you're in business for yourself in particularly, or if you work for somebody, increase your work ratio. You're getting paid to do a job, do that job and do it to the best of your ability. Be the best within your company. If you work for yourself, you know very well that you've got to do these actions, because that is the only way you can put food on the table. It's the only way you can provide for your family. It's the only way that you can, afford to run your car during the week. And you need to get to that level where you're not always worrying about money. You're not worrying about where the next 50-60 pound is coming from to put fuel in your car to go out to see customers. You've got to get out of that situation, and it will take time. When I first started, it wasn't by choice. I got made redundant from a company that I worked for. It took me near on 3 months to try and find a job. I couldn't find a job. By this time, the money that I got from my redundancy was disappearing. My wife had to go back to work because we were finding things tough, which was something that I regret, really, because she deserves the time off. She's in a very stressful job, but she went back to work. She supported me. But I decided that I would go self-employed as an agent. I've always been in the interiors industry, so I thought, why not? Let's go for it. But it takes time. You've got to find the right brands. You've got to, contact your customers and and make them aware of who you are and what you're doing. And it was 12 months before I really started to see a small income, and I mean a small income. It barely covered my weekly expenses. Second year it got better. Third year, yes, we were finally getting there, but we got through it. So it is important that just not to be, as Grant says, be average. You've got to crank it up. And I'm rambling a little bit now, but my whole point of making this video was just to say, look, Brexit is happening in a year's time, where we are divorcing from, or should be divorcing from, Europe trade market. So things are going to be changing drastically. Business is going to be difficult, but being proactive about it, I want to be there. I want to maintain my level of business and some, where other people are just going along in the same way they've been doing for the last 10, 20 years. I don't want to be that person. I want to be there. I want to be successful. I want to continue supporting my customers who have been very good at supporting me. I want to support the brands who again have supported me. The brands themselves, they've got to take a look at themselves, take themselves to the next level, see what they can do over the next 12 months to brace ourselves for what is going to happen. It may be fantastic. It may be that once we've done it, we will be a more affluent nation. We just don't know. The problem is that people talk negatively about it, and once you start talking negatively about it, then it will have an effect on a larger amount of the population. And the problem is that when you got people, politicians that are battling against this and saying, it should never be happening, we shouldn't be leaving Europe, etc., etc. When people start listening to that, it has a double effect. It affects the people that want to leave Europe, and it gets them very frustrated, but it also affects people that don't want to leave Europe. It makes them very anti the Brexiteers, as we call them, but also it can send out, negative vibes to other people as well. So I've got to be honest, the government have made a right pig's ear of this. It was put out to vote by the government, David Cameron at the time, so he's got a lot to answer for. The people voted. It's a very close margin. Nothing was put in place to allow for that small margin. So it's the people have voted to leave Europe, but the politicians just made a pig's ear of it. Really, that's for another video. I'm sorry, I'm rambling on a little bit now. So yes, just be positive. Find yourself a mentor, either a mentor that you can visit, or an online mentor, just to get you started, and then stick with somebody. And if after 5-6 months you find, what, this is not really working for me, let's find somebody else. Find somebody else. That's all I can say. Well, thanks for listening. I know it's been a ramble. So I apologise for that. But thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the next one. Thank you.